Every single second, 400 Nespresso coffees are consumed around the world. They move 14 billion of these capsules every single year through 800 boutiques, and in 2024, they turned a revenue of $1.6 billion. And yet, all of this could have very easily not existed, because in 1987, Nespresso was on the verge of collapsing. And in this very short video, I want to tell you how they went from collapse to behemoth, and why I think it's more about courage than it is about strategy. In 1987, Nespresso is failing. They are targeting office parks and hotels, and it just doesn't seem to be working. Inside of the Nestle stable, Nespresso is the corporate problem child, and they are trying to think, what do they do with it? And so as a last Hail Mary, they hire a new CEO, Jean-Paul Gaia. He comes in as an outsider, he has a fresh perspective, but he also walks straight into a mesh of uncertainty. He has a lot of questions that he has to figure out. And I think this is something that all of us can resonate with in this moment, is that we look at the world around us and there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions that are being asked of us. We have to make tons of decisions where there aren't necessarily clear-cut answers. We don't know what the right answer is in the moment. So Jean-Paul faced a very similar situation. He had to answer a few different questions. For example, should Nespresso target corporates and hotels, or should they target high-income individuals? Should they stay in Switzerland, or should they target other espresso-loving countries as well? And to make this worse, he was really facing all of these questions against the backdrop of people in the company not believing that this should exist, that this should move forward. They wanted to shut down the project. You'll know this as well as I do, that it's easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis, that we feel like if we do a bit more research, we'll be able to get to better answers. And to a certain extent, it helps, but ultimately, research at some point just becomes us spinning our wheels. And so actually, there's a better thing that you can do, and Jean-Paul models this very well. So staring down these big strategic questions, Jean-Paul decides to make three big moves. The first is to position Nespresso as the Chanel of coffee. So they move from targeting office parks and hotels to targeting high-income individuals and households. The second move is to create the Nespresso Club, so an insider community where you feel like you are part of something special. And later on, this would manifest in the George Clooney ads, in the boutiques, in how you are treated, in the experience of the online and in-person store. And the third move is that he decreases the cost of the machine, but increases by 50% the cost of the capsules. So he's betting on the razor and blade model. Now, to be honest, this could have been the wrong move. Nespresso could have floated a little bit longer and then ultimately sunk because they went in the wrong direction. But of course, with hindsight and knowing where we are today, we know that this move, these three moves, paid off very handsomely. Jean-Paul called his shot and then he made it happen. Because we know that today they are moving 14 billion of these capsules every year. They're doing billions in revenue. And so what I wanted to do with this video was not to tell you how to make big strategic decisions, but to tell you that you must call your shot. That's exactly what Jean-Paul Gaia did. He called his shot. He committed to three moves and then saw them to fruition. And there's power in calling your shot. If you call your shot and you are wrong, then guess what? You get to try again. You get to move in a new and different direction. But if you call your shot and you win, then you are the rock star. More importantly, when you call your shot, when you commit to a move, to a vision, to a goal, it creates in you and in the people around you a certain level of resolve, a certain willingness to fight for it. And that level of fight just isn't there if we are tentatively moving between different options. We avoid calling our shots because we don't want to be wrong. And the reality is that you will often be wrong. But even if you're wrong, you've still made progress. You've still learned something in the process. Where we are today, we will never have perfect clarity. The world around us is just changing too quickly. But despite that, I want you to call your shot. I want you to draw a line in the sand, to grab a map and to go, X marks the spot. And watch what happens. Watch how your own energy shifts when you have something to work towards. Watch how the people around you's energy shift when they are there to support you in achieving that. And watch how the world around you cheers for you. Because if there's one thing we love, it's someone who calls their shot and then backs themselves to get it. So call your shot.